Can you explain the county's road standards and why they are important?
Road standards, a broad subject. Road standards have to do with base preparation, the thickness of the base, what it's made of, the top layer, chip and seal or asphalt. They're important because that's a surface that gets driven on. If it's a surface that gets a lot of traffic, you need to make sure that you're putting in a road that will withstand heavy traffic. A road in a neighborhood, a subdivision may not need to be built as sturdily as that. And you know, I think people like to ride on good roads, drive on good roads, and you know, they're our customers. If they're satisfied, I'm satisfied.
Okay, Mr. Palmer, same question.
You know, I guess I start off by maybe apologizing to our current road guys. I think they've done an admirable job of trying to correct many years of abuse on our roads. The road standards are very simple. Water destroys roads. Bad base destroys roads. And if we build to the proper standards with proper drainage, proper crowns on our roads to where the water is kept away from our roads, they last. And until we do that, and the biggest problem I see is in the commercial builders that are building developments and then turning those roads over to the county to maintain later that are improperly built. And we need to correct that particularly.
Same question.
Following up with, most of it has been explained with the roads where the base and the proper, you know, asphalt for the driving conditions, highway versus, you know, maybe a less reduced road that's on a county road or less traveled out, you know, in different areas. It's mainly differentiates on pounds per square inch that's required for the vehicles that's going to be driven on it. And certain requirements when bidding out projects needs to be followed. And when you bid those projects out, you need to make sure that you're properly looking at all the road conditions that is going to fulfill those needs when accepting roads from builders with subdivisions and on the county. You need to make sure that all the before the bonds are released, that the plats are approved and all the maintenance is completed on those roads before we.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have very specific specifications on how to build a road in Christian County and have for several years. County Commissioner is not an engineer, yet 30 years ago we used to take them in, it was our job. Now the county hires an engineer to watch as the road is being built to make sure it meets those specifications, to make sure it will hold a full trash truck even on a residential street, or take care of the bus traffic every morning and every night. And that's exactly the way it should be.
Let's start down with Mr. Palmer this time. This is an audience question for all of you. The present commission has spent over $100,000 on consulting fees. Mr. Reeder in the past has been quoted as saying that he thinks bureaucrats are more qualified to make regulations than elected officials. How do the rest of you feel about consulting fees?
Depends on what they're consulting about. That's a question that's kind of loaded. There are times when anybody needs some expertise that may not be available within a hand in the county commission. However, you can also do a lot of consulting for things that are a waste of the taxpayers' money. We shouldn't be building FEMA shelters that only benefit a handful of people and putting that burden on the back of the entire county. So a lot of things need to be looked at a little careful and make sure that it's a benefit for the county and not just something that is going to bring more burden upon the county.
Same question.
Consulting fees are gonna be needed in special situations. I'm not a bridge engineer. I don't believe any of us up here are, have an engineering degree. When you're looking at different projects and bridges, some road, you're gonna need certain consulting to do. The proper guidance to that is you always want to research first. Next, if you are consulting, you need to make sure you're bidding it out to, spending the taxpayers' money wisely and not frivolously spending it using on consulting questions.
Obviously, as Mr. Palmer and Mr. Snyder pointed out, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades to be a commissioner. Hopefully, you're trained in some particular area to help. Consulting fees are a necessary requirement to a point. You have to use all of the available information you can gather when doing a particular project. The county belongs to the Missouri Association of Counties. They have an attorney that is specific to personnel and labor issues. They already have a personnel book. All you have to do is call them, they'll send it to you, and then we can go through it. And that's just one example. I'm sure there's a lot more if we just ask, see what was available.
Well, whoever heard me say that, I'd like to know what drug they were on, because if they're on it now, they need a designated driver to get home, or they didn't understand the question. Because just today, we had consultants in from Great River Engineering. We had our legal consultant, John Housley, in. These people are necessary to make sure the county's work gets done right. And the restoration process on the historic courthouse, we had a consultant manage that. So I'm not, that's a bizarre.
All right, Mr. Kudamelka, we're gonna do couple individual questions from the audience. Politics in Christian County has the image of being run by good old boys. If you are elected, what will you do to dispel that image, since you appear to be one of the good old boys?
Well, first off, whoever wrote that question, I take offense. I'm good, but I'm not old. Things look a lot different outside the courthouse than they do inside. We have 3 commissioners, and a common complaint is, how come all 3 of you guys agree? Well, because most of the time, that's the right thing. Believe me, and we didn't always agree. Bill Barnett and I, Roy Matthews, Joe Nelson, even Frank Thomas, we each all had our own opinions. We put them out there, and sometimes things got pretty tense. We took a vote. We slapped each other on the back, sometimes maybe too hard, and then we went and ate lunch together.
All right, Mr. Weeder, this audience question says, your city, Fremont Hills, was recently in the news in television news. Your mayor stated that he plans to implement ordinances on gardening. He wants to outlaw plants in pots, limit garden size to 10% of the backyard, and limit tree size. Do you support his plans?
Well, I have to live with my wife who fancies herself a gardener, so there is no way I can support that plan.
Pass it down to Mr. Palmer, please. This audience question is directed to Mr. Palmer and Mr. Snyder, so we'll start with you, Mr. Palmer. Why do you think you would make a good county commissioner, and how would you promote teamwork in the office and help bring more prosperity and new business to our county without raising taxes?
I think there already is pretty much teamwork in Christian County, and they've been pretty successful, in my opinion. But we do have room for improvement. There can be encouragement from the county for our 2 larger cities to make it more conducive to open a new business. I'll give you one example. There's in Nixa, there's a car wash sitting empty for sale. It'll never be sold as long as the city maintains a $22,000 per bay tax on that city to open. That sort of thing just can't be. We have to make our cities, our county business friendly, and then we'll be successful.
Okay, Mr. Snyder.
Can you repeat that question?
Sure. Why do you think you would make a good county commissioner, and how would you promote teamwork in the office and help bring more prosperity and new business to our county without raising taxes?
I would make a good county commissioner because I have the ability to listen to people. I have the ability to work with people and work for people. If anybody has ever worked with me in the past, they know that I work to complete the task at hand. And I listen to the people that I'm working with to make sure that we come up with a resolution that fits everyone's needs. I have teamwork throughout the county experience already. I've worked with multiple municipalities throughout the county, and I've built relationships throughout the county over the many years, from being a member of the chamber to being a member working with the city. And I feel that we can continue to improve upon that teamwork, and I have the ability to work as a team in a business setting. I think that we can improve economic development throughout the city by using tools like SREP and other tools, and utilizing the chamber to enhance the ability to bring in new businesses and work with new businesses.
You guys are scared of the horn, aren't you?
Trying to watch him is kind of...
Okay, this question is for all of you, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Snyder. Can you explain what OTO is and why it is important to Christian County?
The OTO is the Ozarks Transportation Organization. It is a board of elected officials or area city management that works throughout the cities and throughout the county in Southwest Missouri. The OTO board covers the transportation projects throughout the entire Southwest Missouri area, down to Arkansas, the down to south of Hollister, just north of Arkansas, all the way, north. It's very important that the county continue to utilize the OTO so we can work with them on funding projects throughout the county, grants that are available for the county and for the municipalities throughout the county.
The Ozark Transportation Organization is the metropolitan Springfield area, which includes Ozark, Nixa, Willard, Republic, I don't remember, north of Springfield. They basically control a lot of the federal money that comes into this area. They decide as a group what to fund what they do is basically they prioritize all the projects in this area that need federal money to get done. And then they decide how much federal fund is provided for each of those projects. Highway 65, bike and hiking trails, everything that has to do with transportation, they see.
The Ozark Transportation Organization is, as Mr. Kudamaka said, part of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is a federally designated area, a metropolitan area that meets certain criteria as far as population. The OTO, though, part of it is run by a board that does have different officials from the different municipalities. And I can tell you, one advantage to being a part of the OTO is that every third year, Christian County's presiding commissioner gets to chair that board, which is a decided advantage. The disadvantage is we are greatly outnumbered when Christian County, and I'm counting the people from Nixon and Ozark that go up to the OTO meetings. We're sort of like Custer at his last stand. There's a lot more of them than there are of us.
Ray's comment about being outnumbered is the important factor in the OTO. Even though we're going to have to fight for every part of the funding that we can get here, we need to maybe present it in more logical ways, that we need to bring more growth into Christian County, and if we bring that growth, particularly in business growth, we need the infrastructure to do it. Right now, Christian County too often exists as a bedroom county to Greene County, and we kind of suffer for it. So we need to be really innovative in how we approach getting those funds to come to Christian County to our benefit.
All right, I noticed the time. We are running short on time now. I want to apologize to any audience members if I did not get to your question. Right now, we're going to give each of the presiding commissioner candidates an opportunity to ask one opponent one question. Please make this a fair and substantive question. I see you guys are fighting over the mic. We'll just start with you, Mr. Kudamaka. Do you have a question you would like to ask one of your opponents?
Yes, I do. I'd like to ask Ray. Not long after you came into office, you and the other commissioners voted to make a road standard of any road coming into the county system had to be hot mixed and built to specification instead of chip and seal as it was before. I understand that sometime in the near past, you okayed Bob Forrest to chip and seal a road, even though it wasn't even in your district. How can you explain the unilateral disregard for a rule that you voted for?
Well, first of all, when we adopted that ruling, much like Ozark Special Road District, we thought there ought to be some flexibility for subdivisions that had been platted way before we changed those standards. A subdivision platted in 2006 and with earnest money, if you will, put up contemplating chip and seal. I didn't think it was right to say, okay, here we are 7 or 8 years later, we're changing the game. You need twice as much money now if you still want to play. And there are other factors that in this scenario. Number one, I got bad information. I got information that Ozark Special Road had nothing to do with that road. I got information from everybody that was talking to me that it was a C1 road. And considering that and the consideration we were making for earlier plotted subdivisions, that's how it all unfolded.
Ready